الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم إلى يوم الدين. You saw this slide about matching, the verses that other people have established. I just told you, I think actually it's been a good exercise for everybody. I mean, there is nothing, there's no award or penalty for anybody who match me or don't match me, but it's just a good exercise for you to read the juz before I come. What I'm going to do in the longer one talk, and in fact, I prepared this several times, actually, this part here. I prepared it originally like a talk, and then I went back and I said, I'm going to do it scientific methods. And just to convince you that when I come with something a little bit, maybe you can consider is not really, you obviously can ask me any question about it, and you can accept it or not accept it. But actually, I send it to a professor of Quranic study and ask of his opinion on it. And he came very complimentary about it. He said that no objection, So in that regard, I felt comfortable presenting to you this way. What I'm going to do with this one, regarding in the beginning, and this is come from the Juz 16, the beginning of Juz 16 talk about the story from Surah Al-Kahf about Dhul Qarnayn and Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So I thought, well, why shouldn't I use a scientific methodology that Muslims have developed and then apply it and see if I can derive the answer for this question based on not because biases by information I got from somewhere else, but basically from the Quran. So I focused in these two, and I told you, if you heard this morning, it is actually this scientific methodology is the one developed by Ibn al-Haytham, and the Ibn al-Haytham, he died in year 431 Hijrah, or 1040. So that means he died almost 1,000 years ago. Look at, and he is considered the father of the scientific methodology. His method is the one everybody adopted when he does research. And you should do it in any subject, frankly. And I'm going to demonstrate it, inshallah, today. So this is just the information about him. And what is the whole idea? Is it that you just, blind acceptance of anything, it really should not be the right way. We all, Allah subhanahu have created to us some intelligence, and we should use our brain as we think, not because somebody says something, unless you have a good proof. Then in that case, there's no reason for you to accept it, because otherwise you're relegating your mind to somebody else. It's not a smart way. So what he did, the core principle of it is actually to ask the questions, rely only as evidence, and then test the idea that you have carefully, subjected to the evidence. Everything has to be proven, and accept or reject based on what are you going to derive. So he have developed this 5 steps. He said that's how you do research, and that's why I said he considered the father of science. When you have an issue, you ask a question, and you ask a clear question. Ambiguous question give you ambiguous answer. Ask a clear question. And actually, if you use AI, that is what they tell you also for AI, that you get the answer how you ask the question. And the more accurate your question, the more details your question, the better answer you get. And if you study any courses or take a look at YouTube about prompt engineering, how do you ask AI a question? What type of information that you need to put it for them so the computer can actually create the data for you? So you ask a clear question, then based on this question, you give an answer, make a hypothesis on the answer. Then collect the evidence, collect the data that you are going to have, test the hypothesis against the data. And then if you find the data contradictory, the hypothesis doesn't address, is revise. If it matches, then you make the conclude that this is the right hypothesis and this is the right answer. And therefore, if you use this method, it takes away from you that perceived ideas. You have an idea, you heard it or read it, and you make your own, and directly you can drive it in a much better logical way. So where is the evidence is going to come to us for any question in the religion? From the Quran. The Quranic verses is the primary data that we have, you know. And then we basically, any interpretation we make are just assumption, just hypothesis. There is nothing, unless there is an explicit statement in the Quran, then that will be the data. Otherwise, anything else, it is just you can be right, you can be wrong. And when you look at your conclusion, the end after you look at the data, you look to your hypothesis or your assumption that you made to answer the question, then you said, okay, I'm not going to assume the conclusion in advance. I'm going to submit to the explicit Quranic text. If the Quran say this and it's a clear statement, this will be the guide, because this is a real data. This is almost like if you run a science and you run an experiment, the data from the experiment is the data. You cannot do anything. And if the Quran does not address it, then, in that case, you can say it's a provisional. The Quran didn't address it. My answer be as good as anybody else in this regard. And I said certainty only where the evidence, where the verse in the Quran is explicit. So why the study this way? I'm not intended to challenge what other people have said. That's not the objective. The objective is just to give us a disciplined way of thinking, frankly, in it. And I'm going to try it, as I said to you, in 2 case studies in Identify Dhul Qarnayn and Ya'juj wa Ma'juj, who they are. Let's see. The Quranic introduction, يسألونك عن ذي القرنين قل سأتلو عليكم منه ذكرى. They ask you about Dhul Qarnayn and say, I will tell you something about his account. Then the question is, who Dhul Qarnayn? Who is he? And then the second one, can his identity be inferred using the Quranic data alone? Is the Quran give me the information inside it in this case? And the primary sources, the data that I have, is Surah Al-Kahf, because that's when you give the description, and then have a cross-reference with other places in the Quran to identify if Dhul Qarnayn is a name, if Dhul Qarnayn is a title, what is this means, and what is even Qarnayn means. Obviously you can pick it from the Quran. If you look in the Quran, you find the Dhul, it's actually a sign, a function. It's not a name. It's not a name of something. It's defines somebody by its function or some attributes of him. So so it's not a personal name. When it's a Dhul Qarnayn, that's not his name, Dhul Qarnayn. It is related to something that, title, attributes, function, whatever it is that has in it. And Allah subhanahu gave us 5 names in the Quran with this Dhul something. The first one is Dhul Aidi, Dhul Al-Awtad, then Noon, and Dhul Kifl, and Dhul Qarnayn. So these are the 5 things. In the Quran, clearly, there is definition of Dhul Aidi and Dhul Awtad. Dhul Aidi, Dawood Dhul Aidi. This is in Surah Sa'd. Allah subhanahu. So that's directly the wood is Dhul Aidi. Dhul Aidi means is the one who has an authority, have might. And then in Surah Al-Fajr, Fir'aun Dhul Awtad. So Dhul Awtad is a title for Fir'aun, that he is firm and established in the land, because he claimed he is a god in that case. Then Noon, now it is not stated clearly who is he, but is inferred from the account that mention this title for him, and then it's also referred from a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And we know for Surah Al-Anbiya, then Nooni is ذهب مغاضبا, and then we'll talk about the Noon when he came and swallowed in the whale and prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so on. So directly the Noon is Yunus in that regard. Now the 2 has mentioned, but we don't have any link to do it, we have to derive it, is Dhul Kifl and Dhul Qarnayn. So in order to understand them, we need to find what Kifl means and what Qarnayn means. Okay. So if we look to Kifl, we know first of all, Dhul Kifl is a prophet. So it's one of the prophets. في سورة الأنبياء وإسماعيل وإدريس وذا الكفل. So Allah subhanahu lists كلهم من الصابرين, all of them are prophets. So that's the first one. Where is the word the kifl comes in? Came in several places. Came related to Maryam and how Zechariah was the one responsible for her. وَكَفَّلَهَا Zechariah. That means Zechariah took care of her. That means al-kifl is somebody who take care of other people. He's a guardian of other people. The word the kifl related to this. And then the other one is also comes in that, you know, whoever intercedes on the behalf of somebody, bad intercession, he will have a kifli from it. He will take part of his bad intercession of this. And then you have also the people الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وآمنوا بالرسول يؤتكم كفلين, give you 2 shares. So from this one, we basically recognize that kifl has several attributes. One, associated with the responsibility of somebody, is taking care of those people who are under his responsibility and assign shares to them. Who is the prophet who did this in the whole Quran? Who took responsibility to people who were assigning people shares? Sayyidina Yusuf is the only one who, when he was the minister for the stores in Egypt, he was the one people he was taking care of the people, and he was assigning them shares wherever everybody who comes to him. So we can do it this. So let's look now to Dhul Qarnayn. What is the word? Because the people focused in a word that used in the Quran, but actually just picked it up from the tradition. Because they qarn, horn, that's what they said, the man with the 2 horns. But is the Quran ever used the qarn to mean horn? No. So let's look what the Quran uses. So the Quran comes in and say, this is now the evidence now to come with the name. أَلَمْ يَرَوْا كَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِنْ قَرْنٍ. Didn't they see how many qarn we destroyed? So is qarn here horn? Or qarn here means generation, people before, a generation before them, And then in another surah, Surah Al-Mu'minun, it says, ثُمَّ أَنْشَأْنَا مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ قَرْنًا آخَرِينَ. And then after them we brought another qarn, another generation, another civilization, another group of people. They did this one. So if you look at the word qarn in the Quran, it referred to a generation. It referred to civilization. It referred to some dominion of some sort of it. So let us look also the Quran. So that's at least it took away, remove this mindset about qarn is a horn. Qarn is related in the Quran to some influences on generations. Put it this way. Let's look what is really attributes in the Quran that Allah subhanahu put in it. Describe it. This is all data now that we're collecting now. Allah subhanahu say, إِنَّا مَكَّنَّا لَهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَأَتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That means he is a person established in earth and give him means for everything, that he is a very powerful person. He has an ability to do anything he wants. And then he has also authority, judicial authority. He said, قال أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه. If we see somebody who's doing injustice or aggressor, we will punish him. And then وَأَمَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمَلَ صَالِحًا فَلَهُ جَزَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And whoever, the one who believes and acts righteously, we should have best reward for him. So Allah subhanahu, so directly, he's a man, has a lot of power. And the second one, he has authority to implement the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He punishes the people who violate, do injustice, and he will reward those people who do good. So that's the second. The other one, when we looked at the account, he met people that nobody can understand their language, but he was able to do it. So he has this ability to understand the languages. حتى إذا بلغ وجد في دونهما قوما لا يكادون يفقهون قولا. يعني when he found those people they were unable to understand anything. They speak a language. Nobody understands what the people, his people is coming speak, and the other people do not understand, but he was able to communicate with them. The fourth aspect of this one is that when he did the build, he built what? Using iron and copper. So he was has advanced engineering knowledge. You know, he basically get them the iron, heated up until soften and welded together. So all of these are information that Allah subhanahu provided to us a detail about this personality. So now with all of this data collected, then we come back and make, the hypothesis. He said, based on this, I am going to make a hypothesis that Dhul Qarnayn is Prophet Sulaiman. Let us see if actually his, all of the attributes can relate it based on the data, can relate it to that prophet. The first one, Qarnayn, we said Qarnayn, Qarn means a generation, groups of people. What did Qarnayn control? He controlled men, people, and controlled the jinn. This is a two Qarnayn. This is a basically two realms or two generations of two different things. So, وَحَشَرَ سَلْمَنْ جُنُودُهُ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. This is Surah Al-Naml. And then the second one, we know that he is a master of languages. He understood the language of the birds and the ants. He understood language. Allah taught him this language. وَوَرِثَ سُلَيْمَانُ وَدَاوُودُ وَقَالَ إِنَّا عُلِّمْنَا مَنْطِقَ الطَّيْرِ. He learned all of this strange language too. And then he has the knowledge of metallurgy. He have the knowledge of iron. He has the knowledge of copper and welding. Because he took from his father, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the wood, Allah taught him how to use iron and to build the chain shields, links, how to soften the iron, how to bend it. Because, in the past, a shield was a solid piece of iron, steel, iron. Obviously, if you have a solid wrapped around you, your movement becomes strict. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Dawood how to build the chain, make this shield from chains. And therefore the chains give you more flexibility on it and it's much lighter because it's not as solid as the other one. And then for Sulaiman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said he also that we have caused him to have this fount of copper, taught him the copper also to use it, to wield it. Now, when Sulaiman, so now we look at him, he has two realms, two Qarnayn, humans and the jinn. He knows the different language, so can interpret the language of those people who nobody can understand. He knows of the knowledge of iron and basically copper. So if we come to this one, we come and say, okay, the attributes of Dhul Qarnayn align with Prophet Sulaiman. So that will be the highest, coherent. Actually, no other name you can find it that can match these things. Wait a minute, I missed something here. There is one slide missing. There is another one. Remember what he did. He said that he is going to punish anybody who's transgressor. Did he punish anybody? Didn't punish anybody. So that will also comes in now. The discussion here will come now to go to Google and Google. Let's move to them because now keep this in mind. So we come to Google and Google. We have in the Quran, there is two places came Ya'juj and Ma'juj. One of them in Surah Al-Kahf. قالوا يا ذا القرنين إن يأجوج ومأجوج مفسدون في الأرض. That, يقرنان يأجوج ومأجوج causing corruption on earth. And then it comes in for Surah Al-Anbiya. Talk about a sign that precedes the day of judgment, a major sign. حتى إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج وهم من كل حدب ينسلون. And when Ya'juj and Ma'juj were released and they surged from every elevation. So the question really, is it necessary that Ya'juj and Ma'juj in Surah Al-Kahf are the same ones that in Surah Al-Anbiya? Because Surah Al-Anbiya clearly talk about human type people, human being. But is it necessary the two will be the same, or they could be different entities, but they have the same title? That's a question. So the first, and when you look at it, you said, okay, yes, both of them are human groups. That could be a hypothesis. The second one, no, they are not. The Agog and Magog are descriptive title, and they can refer to different things. It does not have to be the same, in that regard. And then comes in what he did. Did he build really a military wall, or he built a containment of whatever Yagug or Magog is doing? So, as I said, the hypothesis now is two. One of them, they are the same. The second one, they are different. But in order to show at least, could the Quran uses the same term for different things, completely different meaning? Now, because if it didn't, then in that case, we have to accept, we say, no, Yagog and Magog must be the same people. But let's look. Let's look to the, first of all, let me collect the data, because rather than coming to the answer. Okay. First of all, they complained about, did they name them or complained about their action, the corruption? They said, قالوا مفسدون في الأرض. So they're those, whatever the Yagog and Magog are, they are complaining about what they have done, the outcome of what they did. The second one, that they asked Dhul Qarnayn to do what? To build a sed, to build a dam, to build a barrier between them between them and Yagog and Magog. Did Dhul Qarnayn build the sed, build the barrier? No. He built a backfill. He put a redma. So if this was somebody coming, you build a wall between you and them, but he built something to fill in the ground. And he said, فَمَا يَبْعَنِيُ بِقَوَةٍ أَجْعَلْ بَيْنَكُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ رَدْمًا. So he didn't do what they said, but he built basically a backfill. You fill something, there is a hole in the ground and you fill it. That's a red. So obviously, therefore, if any hadith, you read a hadith that talk about there is a sed, there is a hole of a sed, a barrier, that hadith should be rejected outright. Because without a doubt, the Prophet ﷺ knew there is difference between a sed and between a redm. The Quran defined it clearly in this regard. Then he also, the composition of what he did. He have this, first of all, these mountains was not at the same height. So he sawa baynahum, he removed the head so it become basically the same, and then filled over it with the iron and with basically the copper, molten iron copper. So it has basically a solid things on it now to fill it, that somebody cannot come, not to cross it, somebody cannot come from under it, because that's how Radm is. And then it doesn't say they will try to fight it, they try to break it. It say no, they were trying either to pass around it, يظهروه, or to penetrate it. فإما ما استطاعوا ما استطاعوا أن يظهروه ما استطاعوا له نقبة. If you build something solid, and I want to penetrate through it, I want to go through it, I can go through the sides, slip from the sides, or I can go through the middle, break, make a hole in it, into it. So at least that's a potential we'll have. And then it comes in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when the time will come, then Allah ja'alahu dakka. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will basically make it dakka. Dakka means that's the end state of it, that it will be crushed. Not penetrated, not full crushed. And the word dakka came in when Sayyidina Musa, when he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him, he said, فَلَمَّا تَجَلَّ رَبُّهُ لِلْجَبَلِ جَعَلَهُ دَكَّ. What happened to the mountain? It crushed. And so dakka, that means when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when the time will come, that thing will be crushed. And then in Surah Al-Anbiya said حتى إذا فتحت يأجوج ومأجوج. This is the second context. So this is the second one. So we talk about in Surah Al-Kahf will be describing several things on it, different than meaning it can be humans. But in without a doubt, in Surah Al-Anbiya, it's clearly talk about a human coming from every direction. So let's look at the wall versus seal. If this was enemies, human being, the Quran should have the language, should have be expected that they assaulted it, they breached it, they battled, there is a battle in it, or some there is nothing about this happening. But all of what the Quran says, it says is the red is made of iron plus molten iron and the cover welded, and then there will be no lateral escape from it and no perforation from it, you know. So it seems like it's more of a containment than actually a wall, you know, a containment of something rather than a war or something to prevent a war from happening. Another one which I raised, I said, when we said that Dhul Qarnayn, he came and said what? أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه. That whoever did injustice or do aggression, we will punish him. Did he punish anybody? You know, I mean, he should have. If they told him they come and do this to us, then we can, you know, you should fight them. He was strong enough and he was committing himself to do this. So there was no confrontation between Dhul Qarnayn and him. Therefore, what he did, instead of solving, he has a moral jurisdiction on this one to solve it, to attack, to punish the people who do injustice. But instead, he just did a containment solution. He contained it. Why? You know, if they were human beings, why didn't they go punish them and let them do the destruction, you know? So now we go and said, okay, if it could be a different, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about something and here is something else. Could it be the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, not names, but a description of something, and attributes of something? So we go to the roots. What is Agga and Ma'juj wa Ma'juj? Agga means it's a blazing fire and roaring. And the Ma'juj means coming from gushing, something is gushing out. So when you look, you said, oh, okay, there is a way in the Quran to show that sometime you put a title for something that really not a name, but in reality, it is a description of some feature of it. If you look to the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, what's his name? Abu Lahab. His name is Abu Lahab? No. His name is Abdul Azzah. Why Abu Lahab? Abu Lahab, because they said that every problem he faced, he always create a problem, make it more difficult. He put fire under it. So instead of solving the problem, he burn it, burn everybody associated with it. So people call him Abu Lahab. You look at Book al-Tafsir and said because he's so beautiful and red-faced and so on. But obviously, it cannot be a compliment, to him. But it means more sense that is a descriptive name. Abu Lahab is a descriptive of his actions. So it could again be a descriptive actually of what is happening, the outcome of their activities, rather than this. Now we said, can the name be used for different things? The same thing in the Quran. And some people said no. Okay, let's look at this. The word ummah. Ummah is nation, isn't it? Ummatun wahida, Khayra ummah. Ummah is all the nation, is everybody knew this. So we look at the usage of the Quran, ummah. في سورة الأعراف طبعا there is many ayat talk about refer to a nation. كلما دخلت أمة لعنت أختها. Every time a nation enter, it will curses the one, it's a sister nation. Okay. Now it also comes as a time period. وقال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة. Now talk about this is Sayyidina Yusuf, when the prisoner, he went out. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, and he's the one of two men who was released and remembered after Ummah. Ummah here is a nation, or Ummah here after a period of time. So the same Ummah is used as a period of time. And then it comes in also for Surah Al-Zukhruf, إنا وجدنا آباءنا على أمة وإنا على آثارهم مقتدون. That we found our father following an ummah. What is the ummah here? It means a religion. And then we are following their footsteps. So here is the same word in the Quran could be used for multiple meaning and completely different meaning. So ummah, if this case, what makes it that Google could be used to the different things too in this regard. So if we look to really the Quranic data, he built the Radba, he made an ascent. He have a metallurgical ceiling. He has the failure mode of a containment was there. He did not punish them. He did not, if they were human beings, he did not punish. He contained whatever the cause is. And then the word, as I said, can be used to different things. So I'm not violating anything. Therefore, the hypothesis that then Ma'juj in Surah Al-Kahf refer to a destructive phenomena emerging from underground between the two mountains and not actually human being that comes in. And that is consistent with the text of the Quran with the data. I'm not violating anything on it in this regard. But however, when you do something like this, because there is no direct explicit statement in the Quran that said Ya'juj and Ma'juj was oil and gas, underground oil and gas release, natural release. So you cannot say it. You just say, okay, based on it, it is possible that this will be an interpretation of it and the focusing in it. Now, the Prophet has many ahadith about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. We didn't say that Ya'juj and Ma'juj for Surah Al-Anbiya is not a human being. No, the Prophet ahadith focus on this one, but not in this one, in this regard. And now, so I was making something here look like, what Zulqarnain did on the left side, But what is because at the end of the day, Allah gave us this the message of the Quran. The Quran, Zulqarnain has power, has knowledge, has all of the means that he needs. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't use this for corruption and control. He used it for, basically to promote justice and help people in all means of protecting them or all means or whatever is natural, damage happening from the nature or damage happening from other people in this regard. So I thought this for anybody who want to study, explore, study, what they should look for, because people looking for a dam, a wall. There's no wall. First of all, if you look at it, this happened between two mountains. And if you have, and now we do this, it's now naturally, if you have gas explosion, natural gas explosion, it coming with fire and noise. So agomag is physical in it, phenomena. And then if you have like in this gas has like H2S, hydrogen sulfide, it will kill people too. So you can, and hydrogen sulfide, the small quantities, you can smell it. It doesn't kill you, that rotten egg. But if the larger quantity will kill you and we don't, basically know it. And this is why they do what they call it, they put the bird in the labs, when they work with hydrogen sulfide. It's not a pigeon, actually. It's anyway. And if the bird dies, then in that case, you better go, the hydrogen sulfide is so high. The percent is so high. That's what they do it, because unless you have an instrument to do it. Huh? Yeah. So anyway, so if somebody can look at area between two mountains, when obviously there is a barrier that made on the ground, it's buried on the ground, and the mountain could have been already collapsed, it could be deteriorated or something, but it's still there. And then it's a place when could be there is a seep, an oil seep or gas leaks. That's when if you want to find that place, rather than looking as there is a mountain made out of a wall, made out of iron. At least they didn't build a wall. Now, what's the time now? Okay, it's good. I still have time. Okay, now go to the other ayat now. This was the one took longer here. And when I post it, you probably will get more information. And now notice what Dhul Qarnayn has. If we look to this ayah and go directly to Surah Maryam, we find he asked people. He said, قال ما مكنني فيه ربي خير فأعلوني بقوة أجعل بينكم وبينهم ردًا. He's in this ayah. He said when he asked the people, he didn't just leave them, tell them, okay, I'll help you. He said, no, bring your own manpower to help me. So here is he using both a physical power, which is knowledge about iron and so on, and the people in that regard. Now there is another for Surah Al-Maryam now become non-physical power. And Yahya خذ الكتاب بقوة, the same قوة. So in that case, in order to develop civilization, you need two powers. You need a spiritual power, which guided a divinely guided spiritual power, and you need physical power. Physical power, human power, knowledge power, equipment, whatever it is. And that is how you can really advance in this regard. Interesting. I thought this would be an interesting one about when I was young in school, all the books that the government distribute, has these two verses of poetry on it. تعلم العلم واقرأ تحز فخار النبوة فالله قال ليحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة. What it means, learn and read, let knowledge be your way, for it brings honor, pride, nubuwah. Actually, the verse that it brings you closer to the prophet level. Allah said to Yahya, hold the fast on the book, be strong and try to make it like rhymes, but the whole idea is, unfortunately, that tell you that actually older generation was this, talking even verses from the Quran and encourage kids to use it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala study the book seriously that you have here. Unfortunately, if you go to any books now, it's already gone. It's nothing. People do not use it anymore. The other one, which I hinted to it, is that in spite of all of the power and the great success, Dhul Qarnayn has or Prophet Sulaiman has, he never attributed this to himself. قال هذا رحمة من ربي. He said that's just a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not like, I the one who did it like Qarun, I did it because of my knowledge. He never attributed anything that he has to him. Another verse I picked is this wood. إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات سيجعل لهم الرحمن ودا. This probably will be the verse that every one of us should really enjoy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, those people who believe and who do righteous deed, Ar-Rahman will give them wood. Wood is a special love. Wood is different because in Arabic there is wood and there is hub. Hub is love. The trouble with it in English, you translate it the same way. Wood and love is the same way. But the difference between wood and love, you can love somebody, but you may not do everything that pleases him, or that that satisfy what he wants. But wood, you always do what is that individual want before asking and for no benefit, and you always want to do it to make him happy. So when Allah give you a wood, Allah will always ensure that you are happy. But you have these two conditions: believe and have righteous deeds. Because it is a hub, a love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know this hadith, you heard it. When Allah loves somebody, he go to Jibreel and said, Jibreel, I love him, you love him. And Allah, Jibreel love him, and Jibreel, all the angels love him, and they will love him. And Allah will put the love of that person in the land, in the earth. And that's why if I ask you, I said, what is the greatest blessing that Allah can give you? If you pick only one materialistic blessing, it is the love of people. That's why if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you, even your enemies will do things to help you by force from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best example we have, Pharaoh and Musa. Pharaoh was intended to kill everybody from the Israelites. What Allah forced Pharaoh to raise the one who is going to destroy him, and force Pharaoh to love him. You know. So if you have this relationship with Allah, and Allah name al-Wadud, so if you can develop this relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have it made. And there's many hadiths that talk about, I don't know if I have them here, that that the hearts of the people between the two fingers of Rahman to Allah, that means, because frankly, if I tell you, here is $1 million, and I want you to love Mr. Netanyahu, okay?
More than that.
Billions of them. Or tell you, take $1 billion and hate, this, your son, for example. You can lie, but you never be able to do it. Love and hate is not something that we actually control. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make it. So if people just love you, and respect you, it's coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your connection is right, everything will fall apart. In that case, will fill in place, not fall apart. Another one, this is a verses that I use it often enough when somebody asks me to give a talk in a wedding, because it always tell me that is related to the emotional strength of a man and woman. Remember this, all the story of Adam. Adam and Eve, Allah gave them command, they violated, the Satan tricked them, and so on. And then the Bible has completely 180-degree, completely different than the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never in the Quran put a single blame on Hawa, on the wife. He put 100% of the blame on Adam, on the man. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about وَلَقَدْ عَيْدْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ فَنَسِيَ وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا. First of all, Adam, he doesn't have a resolve. He doesn't have a firm resolve. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes again and said, فَأَكَلَ مِنْهَا. They both ate from it, so they both committed the sin. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came, that Allah put فَعَصَيَا وَعَصَى آدَمُ رَبَّهُ فَغَاوَى. That Adam disobeyed his Lord and he went astray. What about Hawa, who's eating with him? No. And that's why it really, in my mind, that if you are a man enough, okay, you never put a blame on your wife no matter what happened, because she cannot handle it. Even if she is doing a mistake, you still take the blame. If you're man enough, you'll be like Adam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't put any blame on Hawa. He put the blame 100% on Adam, because no women cannot handle, be a blame. So I always tell people, I said, if you want to have a happy marriage, there is 2 words that you use, or 3 words. I am sorry. No matter what happened, she burned the food, I am sorry, I was the one who distracted you, So nothing, if you want to do it, because, look at this. We're all, looking at it in humor, but in reality, it must be a lesson for us. As a Muslim human being, you should recognize it's your mistake all the time. So. Okay. The other one, which I'll skip on it because I talked about it several times, when we look for Surah Taha, in the beginning, it says, ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى. We have not sent down this Quran to cause you a distress or cause you difficulties. Then comes after this, after a while, and this is verse 2, verse 12, when Sayyidina Musa went, in the desert, when he saw the fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, إني أنا ربك فاخلع عليك. I am your Lord, so take off your shoes. And we talked about why Allah took him off your shoes. There is, if you look at the book of Tafsir, they said his shoes was made of a skin of an animal, of a donkey. Who said the skin of a donkey is bad? Because he was in a holy place, and therefore he cannot put he have to take his shoes. I said, even the Prophet ﷺ tell us, be different than the Jews. They do not pray in their shoes, pray in your shoes. So we can pray in our shoes. So praying, the donkey is good. Skin of a donkey is good. Shoes is good for even in a holy places, in the Kaaba or something. You can wear the shoes We don't do it because we have carpets, but if it's no carpet, we obviously go pray with the shoes. And then, so in that regard, it's nothing, in that. But also, and they said, oh, might be dirty. But dirty what? He's walking in the desert. How can it be dirty after you walk miles and miles in the desert? And the Prophet ﷺ, by the way, he said, if you go to the masjid, check if there is any dirt in your shoes, clean it so you get, when you get into it, enter the masjid and pray in it, in that regard. So the shoes to me, اخلع عليك, that means now you are going to assign your responsibility of a message that will remove all of the hardship from you. Because the first thing you do when you go home after being tired, you take off your shoes. So the message, the Quran is never, the revelation of Allah is never intended to make your life difficult. It actually is supposed to ease your life. If it is difficult, then you either misinterpret it, what the commands are. But it should be easy. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, and continue also of Surah Taha, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِ فَإِنَّ لَهُمْ عَيْشَةً ضَنْكًا. And if you are away from my remembrance, you deviate from my commands, then your life will become a life of hardship. But if you follow the commands, your life will be a life of ease. So here is the ayah that, it actually summarizes everything in our religion. If you want to make one ayah, the message of the Prophet ﷺ, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. This is for Surah Al-Kahf, but also Surah Al-Ahzab, which is part of it, so I linked it to the end of Surah Al-Kahf and also beginning of Surah Al-Ahzab is part of the same juz. قُلْ إِنَّمَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ اللَّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَتِهِ أَحَدًا. If you really have a hope of meeting your Lord, let's look at this word. Hope, يرجو لقاء Allah. What it means. If you want to wish to meet somebody important, what do you think you feel about yourself? You feel good about yourself or feel bad about yourself? You feel that you are a bad person or a good person? Good person. If you're going to come, I wish to meet the CEO, of the company. That means I am so deserving. I have did great accomplishment. I set the example for everybody. Now I want to meet him. I'm ready to meet him. So here Allah subhanahu, whoever put himself in a position to be ready to meet Allah and looking forward to meet Allah because of his exemplary status, then what he should do, فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَيُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Then you should do a righteous deeds and worship none but Allah. That will make you deserving to meet Allah subhanahu. And then it's the same thing here. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ. The same thing. If you want to looking for the hereafter, if you want to looking to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should look, you are the one. You should have exemplary character, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what is the criteria? That you basically believe in Allah, never associate anything with him, and do a righteous deeds. And then in the second one of Surah Al-Ahzab said, وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا, that you keep remembering Allah all the time. Another one, which is also Surah Taha, is really breaking unity among believers is not something to be taken easy, actually. The sad part about it, if we look to the Muslim community today, everywhere, they are divided. Even in the same city, Muslims are divided. When we look at this verse, when, Sayyidina Harun, he saw the people worshiping the calf, and he didn't punish them. He didn't fight them. And when Sayyidina Musa said, how come you didn't do this? What he told him, إِنِّي خَشِيتُ أَن تَقُولَ فَرَّقْتَ بَيْنَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ وَلَمْ تَرْقُبْ قَوْلِي. I feared that you would say you have caused division among the children of Israel, because in that case, those people who worship the calf, those people who do not feel this is a corruption, they will fight each other. So he was afraid, and he is a prophet. you know, and he still was afraid to cause division among them, even in a case when happened to that level, you know. So in that case, we just have to take this from a lesson that watch for when you say something or do something that might cause a division among the community, among the families, among whatever it is. Watch for it, because a prophet allowed people to worship idols just to avoid fighting them and cause a division. So we have to be careful with this one here. Not because now everybody, you don't believe in there is punishment in the grave, you are a kafir, and now I have to fight you. You know, people get a division on treasure in issues which nobody knows the answer for it exactly, but at least the people find the ways to divide with each other. The last one. This is one which is patience, basically. Patience and perseverance is something. فاصبر على ما يقول. When you hear something bad said about you, or said about Islam, or said about the prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, just have patience. Be still. فاصبر على وسبح بحمد ربك قبل طلوع الشمس وقبل وآناء الليل بسبح أطراف النهار على الأرض. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that focus in it. If you hear something bad, not to get angry, not to get upset. As long as they are talking, don't be this, but have patience and then connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will take care of them. And we talked about this issue before. Another one, verse also for Surah Taha, because sometimes, you know, the kids do not want to pray, the wife does not want to pray, or the vice versa, the husband, the wife could be praying and the husband does not pray. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. That, you know, command your family to pray and be patient with doing this. So it is not that you get angry and upset and mad and so on. No, you want to keep asking them, but be patient, and one day they will change and pray. Because after a while, if you try to force somebody to do something, he does the opposite. You know. So particularly when it comes to religion, it has to become a manner that encourages. Don't cause that person to have the ego against it. So from something like this. So these are the 10 verses that I picked for you this. Inshallah, next week is going to be Juz 17. So you have ahead, a whole week. I said there is no reward or, something wrong. We just pick the 10, as I said, just every couple of pages, look at it, point your finger and pick one verse and say, okay, I'll list this one. If you feel, oh no, it's clear, I want something a little bit more complicated, then pick another one. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلي كلمة الحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us. Shower us with your blessings. Increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, purify our hearts, strengthen our faith, increase our knowledge, and make us benefit from what you have taught us. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves garden from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our friends and relatives who are sick. Oh Allah, grant to all of them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for the favors you have bestowed upon us and our parent, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. Oh Allah, We seek from you all of the good, whether we know it or we don't. And we seek your refuge from all evil, whether we know it or we don't. Oh Allah, we seek refuge in you from incapacity, from laziness, from fear, from greed, from poverty, and from the torment of the grave. Oh Allah, we have many of our brethren who are living under oppression and injustice. Oh Allah, heal their trauma, protect their helpless, and grant them lasting peace and prosperities. Oh Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.